Hello everyone, I'm Tim Cahoon with the Alliance Heavy Duty. Today we're going to be going over our top 6 most common brake shoes that is actually 88% of all your brake shoe sales. Typically a customer is going to come in and put a brake shoe lining on your counter. The first thing that you want to pay attention to is how large of a brake shoe surface that you have. Your steer axles are going to typically be a 4-inch, where your drive axles are going to typically be a 7-inch brake shoe lining. So right there, with those simple measurements, we can determine whether we're looking at a steer axle or looking at a drive axle. Let's assume the customer comes in with a 7-inch wide brake shoe. So we're going to focus on these right here. First off, you want to pay attention to, does it have a hump or does it not have a hump? That's going to be one of your big determining factors to figuring out which brake shoe that you have. So we're going to say right here that it does not have the hump in it. So we're going to be looking at this one right here and this one right here. Now that you've identified that your table does not have the hump like we talked about before, you can take a look at some of the differences between these two tables. One of the big telltale giveaways is going to be your 4709 is going to have a pin through it here, where your 4707 does not. You can also pay attention to, at the top of the table here, where your roller pin attaches, that it has a much larger piece of metal versus the 4707 standard. So with those few pieces of information, we have already narrowed down whether it is a 4707 or a 4709 E2 brake shoe. So next, if you do have the hump in it, we know that these are going to be 45-15s. The next thing I like to take a look at is whether it has a hump up here or if it's the more straight style without the hump. You'll see here it goes up. Now, with knowing the hump that goes up, we're going to know that this is the 45-15 FX3 style for the Fruhoff, and then you're going to have your 45-15 standard right here without the hump. That's probably the easiest, simplest way to look at what brake shoe lining that you have of these 4 options. Now, if you do have one of the 4-inch wides, these are typically going to be your steer axle shoes, so it does help to ask the customer, is this a drive axle or is this a steer axle? The easiest, simplest way that I can tell these apart is your 4702 is going to typically have your double web design, where your 1443 style is going to have the single web design. Also will have a hump right here. Typically your brake shoes are going to be sold as 2 shoes and a hardware kit, sold as a kit in a box like this. This is how to identify your top 6 brake shoes. If you have any questions at all, contact Alliance Heavy Duty. Thank you very much and have a great day.